Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video I'll be concentrating on descriptive writing and considering with you how you can achieve the same excellent results as a candidate that got full marks, as I'll share with you in this video. So a typical GCSE English Language Paper 1 question for writing is something a little along the lines like this. Describe a journey by bus as suggested by this picture. So instantly, we're knowing that we have to describe. And there are several ways that we could do that. The first is by planning through boxing the image. And by that, what I mean is drawing lines that form little boxes so that I can concentrate on different quadrants of what's going on in that image. Now, for some people, this helps them zoom in and then zoom out to different parts of the image, which helps instill the ideas that they can plan around to prompt their imagination in their writing. Whilst that's one strategy, I also think the big question is, how can I make it come alive? And the simplest way of answering that is often, where do you see the most interesting part of the image? What does it do to capture your interest? Now for me, I find it helpful to zoom in on one image and then zoom out around it. So as you can see, what I've zoomed in on is a man. He's looking out the window and I'm already thinking, how can I make that come alive? The thing that really strikes me in this image when I zoom out is the lights. They're bombarding passengers and observers. It's as if the sight is overwhelming them and entrancing them. We could even say that this man who I've zoomed in on looks transfixed at what's happening outside. I mean, what is he, daydreaming or half asleep? It's also interesting that this night sky seems almost enchanted. Could this bus be in another world? I don't know. I'm being asked to describe a journey on this bus, but there's no reason why it couldn't be somewhere else. I wonder if this passenger's going to miss their stop. Now, I'm just randomly considering some of these ideas. But what I'm about to show you is a full marks answer that would get a 9. And it's a combination of description and ultimately a hint or two of narrative writing, because it's really quite impossible to take a reader somewhere with pure description without including some elements that capture a narrative that makes them keen to unfold and learn what is happening. So as you have a chance in a moment to hit pause and read the model for itself, my suggestion to you is see how this candidate has used the same image and the same zoom in to ensure that their writing is not just interesting, but accurate, confident, and perceptively captivating. At this point, hit pause to actively read both parts on this slide of the model answer and the next slide of the model answer. What are the features that get this response such a good mark? So the golden question for you is, how did it get this mark? It got full marks. Well, obviously it's accurate, and that's obvious. There aren't any spelling mistakes, and there is a variety of punctuation used in its range alongside many different types of sentence, whether that's minor, simple, compound, or complex. But as I read this to you, what I'm also considering with you is the impact it has on us. I've emboldened in red the different features that really stand out, but I've also put in red other echoing devices that are found throughout this piece. So, through the haze of the window, the city burned before him in a cacophony of neon laser lights, blazing across the world of darkness like stars across a night sky. So instantly I've got this semantic field, this collection of words in description of light, whether that's the city that burned, whether it's the neon laser lights, the blazing. And there is also a simile that mirrors the difference between the light and the dark. So the darkness is illuminated like stars across a night sky. So we're setting up the difference between light and dark. great stones and metal monoliths. The stars danced and flashed, swirled and sparkled, in proud shades of red, green, yellow, blue, that every colour that could be imagined was roaring in the silent symphony. These lights played and twinkled in his wide eyes. The city rose within him, a feeling long forgotten, one of wonder, beauty, adventure, one subdued by the monotony of life, one that had been sorely missed. So whether it's the personification of the stars, the lights, and the colours, we've got some emotive listing, whether that's of the colours of these lights or the emotive listing after the colon of abstract nouns. We're making a connection between what's being seen by the character, but also their feelings, a feeling long forgotten. It's also important to note that, you've got this juxtaposition of it's silent, but it's bombarding. It's really entrancing whoever is observing. Now, as you can see, the next structural feature we can notice is that there's just one sentence on its own for this next whole paragraph. Sharing the will of those terrific, persistent stars, personification again, he tore his eyes away from the scene to look back, to reflect how he had ever come to live without this. That single sentence on its own is so impactful because it's helping us understand that this character is reflecting on what they have missed for so long. They really are entranced by the lights. Around him he saw the same tired people, heads down, dead still as if shackled by some unhappy master, but now he saw so much more. Their lives and dreams and meaning were unveiled through the eye of his vivid imagination. With this newfound childlike wonder, he saw movie stars, murderers, secret aliens, as if gazing at them through a kaleidoscope. Himself, he saw as an astronaut, gliding past the bright, fiery suns in his spaceship. So this whole paragraph contrasts the outside with the passengers around him. And this daydreaming of our character on the bus is shown through the listing of what he's found in this childlike wonder. Whether it's movie stars, murderers, secret aliens, there is a sense that this person is lost in their own imagination. But when it says himself he saw as an astronaut, and then we've got this ongoing relationship with the bus as a spaceship. Now this is imaginative, but it's also using interesting discourse markers at the start of each paragraph and many different sentences, like starting with himself, really resonates with us. It makes us clear this person is very aware of the crafting of what they're doing. Once more he gazed out through the fogged screen to see fellow vessels buzzing past, and to them he waved. He closed his eyes and smiled, reclining against the soft comfort of his chair, and he listened to every varied beep and whir. The gentle but powerful growl of the engine soothed him every now and then, breaking as a piece of music faded in, and then just as rapidly faded out forever. So now we're seeing our character revisit the view out of the window again. And the varying of discourse markers supports our structural intention as writers. Once more he gazed. I think even the phrasing of "and to them he waved" on the second line of that paragraph emphasises that this writer is crafting. We've still got this extended metaphor of the bus as a spaceship, as opposed to saying other vehicles, it says fellow vessels. But also we are definitely bombarded by sound. There's so much onomatopoeia here, whether it's beep, whir, growl. The sounds echo the roaring of the bus. And alongside that, the personification, again, of the engine brings this to life. Now we've got a series of short, standalone sentences. The light and noise faded, slowly, away. But just as the embrace of rest was closing around him, a shrill, monotonous sound through the silence. That once more, so much sound being bombarded here. And that shrill, monotonous sound is clearly the voice of the bus driver. Last stop for the night. That short sentence with the speech marks from the driver, it breaks up the imagination of our character. It's unsettling as well, as we learn in the final paragraph. Disturbed and unsettled, he disembarked from the bus, stepping onto the rough, damp pavement. Weary, he gazed up. Some neon signs glowed above the entrance to a tower. Cars droned past, just as they had always done. He frowned and looked up again, but the sky was dark and colourless, covered in cloud. It was the same dull sky he had seen thousands of times before. He stood there, still, as if shocked. So that final paragraph really hits us, as readers, with the brutal reality of the world outside beyond the bus, beyond his imagination. Whether it's the weather, the sky looking dark and colourless, whether it's the repetition of dull as a sentiment, if nothing else, across that whole paragraph. But more than anything, this writing starts with the lights and ends with them. Something I've noticed in top band answers across this descriptive writing, they concentrate on small amounts of detail, and where they start in their journey, whether that's actually part of their description, they return to that same idea at the end. It's important also to see the repeated motifs, whether that's of light and sound. They have a huge impact on us and bombard our senses. So yes, you could say, well, that's quite straightforward. This is a great answer, miss. But there is a comma, there's a full stop. These are the natural things that students overuse. But we've also got single speech marks. We've got a colon. We've even got a semicolon earlier. We have a range of sentence types and a range of ways of structuring each sentence that make it engaging and captivating, alongside variation in sentence type. Sometimes I think students look at lists of devices they could use, and it's important for you to realise it's not just a tick box. It's the quality of the devices that are used that are important rather than the quantity that you embed. For example, this candidate that we just read had a range of similes, a range of examples of onomatopoeia and a few examples of personification. They bombard the senses, and they definitely think about, at one point, pathetic fallacy. But there's no denying that you don't need every single one of these, as long as the control of what you're crafting is good. You'll also have noticed that this whole piece is not long. It was really 2 sides before I typed it up. So let's think about signalling and structure. Your paragraphs should vary for length, because you're showing the examiner that you have an awareness that paragraphing is critical to how someone reads something. And as a consequence, as I mentioned earlier, that idea that you've intentionally started in some way should be matched by how you choose to close your writing. And as I mentioned earlier also, the beginning linking to the end is clearly a great way of showing the examiner you know you've intentionally done something. That's why you need to plan if you want to secure a strong mark. You'll notice in the model I just showed you that they've got connectives and punctuation that have been used really purposefully to secure their solid, perceptive awareness of what makes us as readers hooked on their every word. Finally, sentence types should not just be simple or minor. You need to be confident using compound sentences and complex sentences, especially when you're bombarding the reader with a range of different ideas. Beyond any doubt, descriptive writing is your strong suit, whether you feel it or not. We each have an imagination, and no matter how random it seems, a little bit of control in the opening minutes with the planning can really liberate you across the exam. So best of luck, and I hope your writing reaches the top marks for you. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?